Welcome to the Hey Mom podcast. My name is Megan, and on Instagram as well as YouTube, I go by Wool and Cottonwoods. And today I am bringing you my what I've been up to the last week, what I've been knitting the last week, and what I'm hoping on knitting next week. And this is the Hey Mom podcast because I'm using this as a way for me to still connect with that conversation that I had with my mom for such a long time before she passed away this February, all about crafting and knitty things and just things that we love to discuss. So welcome to all. I'm so happy that you're here. If you are here and you like the video, go ahead and subscribe or give it a thumbs up or leave a comment. I had a lot of comments on my first video and I loved how that conversation really organically continued into the comments. So if you have any questions or anything that you want to let me know, just put it in the comments below and I would love to have that conversation with you. I understand what podcasters mean when they say that things really, it really feels like you're talking to someone, which is wild because I'm not, I'm talking to my phone, but that is what it is. So welcome, and I'm so glad that you're here. And what I'm wearing today is my What the Fade shawl, and this is kind of like my air conditioning shawl because it is very large. And it is very squishy and it's just gorgeous. Let me get into the details of it. The pattern is called What the Fade, and it is a pattern that's by Andrea Mowry. Let me pull this leg. You'll be able to see it a little bit. Maybe better? Not so sure. But it's an absolutely gigantic shawl and I love it. So you start up here and it's a total of a 6 color fade. You know what? For the art, it's a total of a 6 color fade, and you have a right side and you have a wrong side, and so you start it in brioche and you just work through your 6 colors, and then you get into this garter section, and I love the way that fade looks in the garter section. And because of the brioche, and you can even see like my hand up here, because of the brioche and because of the garter as well, it is just such a flexible, stretchy, malleable shawl. And like I have it full arm's width, and you can see how much wingspan continues to be. Oh, see, I can't even get it in frame. It's huge and wonderful. And I love it. And yeah, I call it my air conditioning shawl because I find I don't wear it so much in the winter. Oh, my headphones just did a little thing, so hopefully that didn't affect the sound. I'm trying to do Andrea Mowry style with my AirPods, and we'll see. I'll see in editing if it makes any difference. The fan's on, the air conditioning's on. It's 30 degrees here in Lethbridge today, so we'll see if it makes difference for you guys at all. Oh, gosh. Okay, sorry about that. Air conditioning shawl, because air conditioning is kind of chilly. And up until this year, well, last year I rented, over the summer, we rented a house that had air conditioning, but up until then I had never lived somewhere with air conditioning. And so I always feel really chilled when I'm in places that have AC, and so I love to wear this in the summer because it's not too warm. It's 100% merino superwash, single ply, dyed by Olan Mills in Ireland. Unfortunately, she doesn't dye anymore, but I loved this fade. It wasn't even a fade kit. It's just one that I put together with some yarn that I actually got on sale from Stash like 2 springs ago. It was 2 springs ago. And then I knit it last summer, and I love this shawl. You'll see there's some stitches that I dropped, because when you have a ridiculous amount of stitches, you're bound to drop some. And I just have stitch markers. I think there's one on this side and one on the other. And I don't care, I haven't pinned them down yet, but I will. There was one time Jeffrey and I were going out to a fancy dinner, and I was like, oh, should I wear my like What the Fade shawl? And he's like, but take the stitch marker out first. I was like, oh, I can't, because then something's gonna ladder. I'm sure it would be fine, but anyways, it should be called What the Squish because it's a very squishy shawl and I adore it. So that's my What the Fade shell. We'll see how long it lasts, but I figured I should at least start with something knitted. I'm gonna do a little bit of a different format this time, and I'm gonna talk to you about what I did this week. And I had to write it all down. It's been a busy week. So Friday last week, Jeffrey's brother graduated. So we were all very, very happy for him, and he's already got a job and is very happy. And so we had a big celebration dinner for him with Jeffrey's parents, and some aunts and uncles were able to come. And so we just had a really lovely visit, and it's so nice. I really enjoy spending time with his family, and so we had lots of fun there. And then that night, actually, and this is kind of where we get into the mom conversation of things. That night I had a really poignant dream about mom. And I won't go too much into it, but essentially, like, my dad always used to say that his parents would come into him in his dreams, and maybe I've described this, I don't remember, but I just thought that was a total, like, I'm like, yeah, okay, old man, whatever. But it's true. My mom comes to me in my dreams, and it's not memories, it's not things that we've done in the past. It is very much like in the here and in the present, and like in the dream she acknowledged that she had died, and it was just wild. But it was essentially her way of kind of reaching out, and whether you believe in an afterlife or not, I think, you know, whether it is mom or it's just my subconscious creating that voice of mom, I think it's still equally powerful. And I do believe in the afterlife. I am religious. I go to church here. But that being besides the fact, it was mom's way of kind of, in the dream, she was reaching out to me, and she was connecting with me, and she was saying, hey, I'm still really interested in what's going on, and like, tell me how your week was, tell me what you did, how have things been going, like, oh honey, I'm sorry to hear that, you know. It was so powerful, and I'm not going to go into the nitty gritty details of the dream, but it was just gentle and lovely. And I woke up and I'm crying, and it took me a long time to get calmed down, but the next day I was able to say, you know, like, I hope those don't stop. My life is at such a point where life is about to start moving forward really quickly, right? Like, we just bought a house this year. We aren't married. We don't have kids. You know, like, there's a lot of life stuff that's going to happen in the next 10 to 15 years, and mom's not going to be here for it. But if I can continue, and it's not very often, it's once every few months, but if I can continue to have her in my dreams that way, it feels, you know, it feels very powerful in that she is there. So I don't know if anyone else has had similar experiences. I know a lot of people, you know, still pick up the phone to call their mom, and I haven't so much had that, because then I'll just pick up the phone and call my brother. But that was really beautiful. So Jeffrey and I also went for a little hike. It was a very small hike. It was the first hike of the season, and for any of you who do hiking in the mountains, the first hike is the shittiest, and it's really hard, and it always sucks. And like, Jeffrey runs like 200 kilometers a month and cycles, and his cardio, and swims. His cardio is just fine. Mine is not, but he was still struggling a little bit at certain spots. That always makes me feel better. But yeah, so first hike of the season, and if you aren't a hiker and you do ever try hiking, I always say the first 20 minutes is the worst. The first 20 minutes is your body just getting used to being in that state of like, okay, we're going up, and the up isn't about to stop for a few more, you know, like minutes or kilometers or hours, however large your hike is. I say if you can get through the first 20 minutes, you can get through any of it, as long as you're adequately prepared, of course. So if you're ever on a hike, think of that. Hey, the first 20 minutes is the worst. And sure enough, like minute 20, minute 25, minute 30, whatever it is, maybe it's minute 40, maybe it's minute 140, it does get better. And so anyway, so we did this little hike, and we got to kind of like the destination, which was a lake, and we're like, that was really short. So we just ended up continuing on the trail a little bit further. So we were hiking in Waterton National Park, which is a national park about an hour and a half south of where we live. We're so lucky to have it so close, and it's kind of like Banff. A lot of people have heard of Banff in Alberta, Canada, just outside of Calgary. It's very similar to Banff, but it's tiny. It's this tiny little pocket, and it's just so wonderful. It's butts right up against Glacier National Park in Montana, and it's this little corner of paradise, and I absolutely adore it. And so we had a lot of fun in Waterton, spent the day there, and if you'd like to see kind of what we did, I'll include that at the end. And I'm gonna change my or I already have, as you're watching this, changed my title screen to be some flowers that we saw on the hike. So I hope you enjoy that, and I'm excited to share what we've been up to with you. So watch at the end of the video for just some beautiful scenery if you'd like to see more about Waterton National Park. On Tuesday night, we went and watched Across the Spider-Verse, which was hilarious and wonderful. And I'm not a big, like, superhero fan, but it was a riot. It was really fun. And then last week I had talked about how this week I was going to try and, like, every morning just get up, drink my coffee, and go for a walk. My mornings have been busier this week than last week, but I have been kind of just getting up and going and doing my thing. I haven't gone for a walk by myself in the morning yet, but I've been going with other people, and that's been really helpful. And I hope that I can get into a routine of being able to go by myself and being comfortable, kind of like breaking out of my shell in that way and going on my own, so that I really can get the benefit of that. I think it'll be really helpful to just get comfortable with that and get comfortable being on my own and get comfortable going outside of my comfort zone. I'm feeling a little bit more courageous, a little bit more comfortable to try that, which I think is a really good sign for my healing and for my overall health as I continue to move forward. So that's what we got up to this week. It was a lot. Oh, we also did a bunch of setting up at our house. We moved in 3 months ago, and we still had not set up any of our guest bedrooms. So we spent an evening, I don't even remember what day it was this week, but we spent an evening just setting those up, and it felt really, really good. So that's a relief, that's exciting, and we're excited to see kind of how that continues to progress. We're expecting on having some guests, some friends later this month, and then also we're going to be having my brother and sister-in-law and their kids with us in August. So just getting all of that ready feels really, really nice. And in the meantime, we keep the doors to those rooms shut so that no kitties can get involved. All right. Let's get into finished objects. So I finished quite a bit this week, and I feel good about some of it, and I feel not so good about other parts of it. So the first finished object, this was actually a finished object last week, but I actually finished it this time. So this is my old port hat by Andrea Mowry. It was a part of the, not the March to May knit along, but the Memorial Day long weekend knit along. So the only big difference from last week is that I, 1, blocked it, and 2, I finished that lining in the center or on the inside, and I also stitched it down. I had left a tail from my cast on, and it ended up being the perfect length to sew that brim down, and so I just left it on when I blocked it, and then I was just able to use that, which is really nice. It like doesn't have as much give because of that sewed in lining, but whatever. So this is what it's like on, and hopefully this doesn't affect the AirPods too much. So Andrea's is very much more of a like beanie style, like a watch cap. It's a beanie, like a toque. Like it has a little bit more slouch on it, whereas this is very watch cap style. And in the last video I described I knew I was going to run out of the pink, and so I cut my total length a little short, which I think it works out totally fine. I I'm really happy with it actually. And last week I talked about that I might be giving it away, but I don't know, it fits really well. It doesn't feel like it's gonna slide around too much. You can see the little, I think so. Yeah, you can see the little ear flap details, maybe easier on that side because there won't be so much sun on it. But yeah, I'm happy with this. I think I'll keep it. Maybe I'll get wear out of it, maybe I won't. And if I don't get wear out of it for 1 year, then I'll pass it on. Right now with my hair, I can't really feel the alpaca. Even on my forehead, it doesn't feel too itchy. So we'll see how much wind it blocks. I'm skeptical for how much wind it might be able to block, but it doesn't really matter. So yeah. Perks of the short hair is I cut my hair only in October. I used to have really long hair for quite some time. And perk of having the short hair is hats look bomb. So that's been fun. So old port hat, Andrea Mowry, lots of fun. Second finished object was going to be an old port hat, but like I said last week, I actually made it into a Harlow hat. So I had to do a little bit of fudging, and I used old port numbers because my main color here, which is the Elm Sport by Lily and Pine in the color Erin's Blue. My main color is a DK weight, and then my contrast color, which I'll actually flip it inside out to show you my contrast color, is called Dried Bouquet. And that is by West Coast Yarn Co. And it's Dried Bouquet on her Victoria sock base, which is an 85% superwash merino and 15% nylon base. And I held it along with the Rowan Kidsilk Haze in the colorway Pearl. Okay, you could see I was doing a lot of thinking. I was doing a lot of recall there. So contrast color, beautiful. Main color, beautiful. The Elm Sport is 100% BFL. And so I really like having a non-superwash on the outside. It means it'll be more water repellent. And I really love the stitch definition that this 100% BFL gets. Like it's so crisp and so beautiful. So yeah, I fudged this pattern and I'll show you the decreases. So I used the decrease method from the Harlow hat, but because I had fudged the numbers and kind of used the counts from the old port hat, I just ended up having to sort of fudge the last round. And there's like on this spot and this spot, there's decrease, 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 but there was no decrease on this side. So I just made it work out with that last round of decreases so that I could get down to 16 stitches but stay nice and symmetrical. And so that took some maths and I ended up like writing it out in my book. Let me see if I can find the page here, because I think, yeah, I'll just show. Just like how I was breaking it down. Sometimes you just need to draw it out. And I am super happy with this hat. I just finished it this morning, like right before lunch, right before Jeffrey got home, and I'm super happy with it. It's got so much squish. It's got so much stretch. Like I've got a bit of a bigger head, but I'd be confident that someone with a way bigger head would be able to fit it. Somebody with a way smaller head would be able to fit it. It's just fabulously, fabulously stretchy and comfortable. I'm really happy with that tubular bind or cast on. I think I'm going to continue to do the tubular cast on for more stuff. Sometimes I'm just worried about it stretching out too much at the neckline, but that can also be managed in other ways. But yeah, it's got just the right amount of slouch in the back. I'm very happy with it, and I think this is going to get a lot of wear. I'm calling this hat my favorite things hat because the Erin's Blue, the Dried Bouquet from West Coast Yarn Co., the color of the Mohair, like it is my favorite things, and I absolutely adore it. So that was really fun. So this is my favorite things Harlow Old Port hat mashup. So that's all done. Really happy with it. Would strongly recommend any of the Harlow hats. Still not wild. Like, I don't think I'll knit another Old Port hat. I think if I were looking for a brioche hat to knit for gifts, I would go ahead and just knit the Harlow hat. It was a bit of a longer haul because knitting brioche takes a lot more time than knitting 1x1 rib, or especially more than plain stockinette would take. But the finished product is so squishy and so lovely. I'm thinking maybe I'll end up making this for Jeffrey. I know he would really appreciate that. So, would strongly recommend the Harlow hat, the Harlow worsted, the Old Port hat if you kind of want to get the numbers to do a little bit of a DK sport weight, Franken beanie. No, that's a Grocery Girls. That's a Jody from the Grocery Girls hat. But anyways, so yeah, that's this finished project. I'm very happy with it. One more finished project. And this one was not it was not a super successful finished project is probably a good way to put it. So this is my Tolsta, and it is by Rebecca Clow of the Crayabea here on YouTube. And the problem was not the pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on, and I will see you in a moment. All right. So you can see my shirt just comes up a little bit there, but that's fine. So this is the Tolsta Tee by Rebecca Clow of the Crayabea, as I've already said. And it's not the pattern's fault. It's my fault for the fiber selection. Now, I was using, not in this color, but the Rowan cotton cashmere. And you know what? I just realized it's not my favorite from Rowan. And I would never use it again. I'm not going to buy it again. Even if the colors are pretty, any of that, just not going to do it. So it's 85% cotton and 15% cashmere, and it feels like it's 100% cotton. Like, I think I was saying that, like, when I washed this, which was my swatch for this, and we'll talk about the different colored stripe, but when I washed this, it just felt like a dishcloth. And you know what? I don't want to be wearing a dishcloth, but it feels like a dishcloth on. So I'm kind of disappointed. And Jeffrey was really good. He was like, honey, like, it can just be a chilling around the house shirt. And I think it will be. Like, maybe it's the color, maybe it's just too desaturated. I don't know. I don't know what this color was, but it might be coming across a little bit gray, but it's kind of a grayish purple. It's very much more on the purple side of things. And the stripe here is Remix by Berroco, and it's in the charcoal colorway. I don't know if that's actually what it's called or not, but the color is charcoal. And I did 4 inches in the purple, and then I did 2 rounds of the black, and then 6 rounds of the purple. And I'm really happy with the stripe ratio, but it's not what I thought. So I'll get up and show you. Like I said, it's just, it feels a little frumpy. Like, I would not wear this to work. I would not wear this to go and hang out with friends. And that's okay. That is a-okay. Sorry, my headphones are disconnecting and reconnecting, and I don't know how that's affecting things on your end. Hopefully not too much. So anyways, not 100% on this guy. I will knit the pattern again. I have some Holst Coast that I bought last summer that I haven't done anything with yet. And it's in a nice, like, off-white gray color, and then a really dark navy blue. So I'm thinking that might get across the vibe of the Breton stripe a lot better. What I'm gonna have to do is I'm just gonna have to knit a swatch. Because of course I would hold that double, and other people have held Holst Coast double. It's half cotton, half wool, so it's gonna have a little bit more structure from the wool. I think this probably just leans a little bit more worsted, and it feels chunky. It's not cute. So I'll wear it around the house. Maybe, or maybe I'll just donate it. We'll see. Don't buy Rowan cotton cashmere, in my opinion, unless you have something really intentional to use it for. I will not be buying it again. And you know what? Actually, it came up on the Well Loved Knits podcast this week that was a yarn that she would not recommend, that she's worked with in the past, that she was not a big fan of. So it's an FO. I finished it in like 3 or 4 days. Like, I blasted through this. Like, I think I was probably like down at this stripe, and Jeffrey was like, I don't think I've seen that sweater before. I was like, well, not really. I kind of knitted it all in one go. So yeah, I'm enjoying it, like the pattern, but I'm not enjoying the knit itself. I think that's just because of the fiber. We will see when I knit another one. I don't know if that's going to be this year or if that's going to be next year. We'll just kind of see how my summer shapes up and what I end up doing. I'm going to go ahead and take this off, and then, I haven't blocked this. I don't think it's going to make a big difference when it blocks because my Rowan or my ranunculus didn't change a ton when it was blocked. So anyways, I'm going to take this off, and I'm going to come back to you with a little story of, it's going to be a minute for me. It's going to be 5 seconds for you. Bye. All right. My air conditioning shawl is not going back on. Not yet anyways. I'm not too chilly. Though I do have my slippers on because basements. So what day was it this week? It was Monday. And I had really high hopes for my day and my week. And nothing happened the way I needed it to. I had to go and do like 3 things at the bank, and I showed up at the bank, and it was already kind of like mid-afternoon because I had put off what I wanted to do. And I showed up at the bank, and there was like 5 people in line and 1 person at the teller. And I stood there for 5 minutes, and because my anxiety was already pretty high and I was already feeling pretty anxious and gross, I ended up like saying like, "Okay, see you later, bank." And I got out of there. And I went back on Tuesday and did what I needed to do, and it all worked out totally fine. But it was a day where nothing happened as it needed to. And I'd spent the morning procrastinating, and that's something that I've always struggled with, but particularly when I'm not 100% well, as you know, I'm not right now. So as that happens and as that develops, my procrastination kind of ebbs and flows. And I'll procrastinate, and then I'll feel shitty about procrastinating, and then I'll procrastinate more, whereas I would have just felt better had I done what I needed to first thing. So I went ahead and I got home from the bank, and I tried doing something else that was on my to-do list, and that didn't work out. And it just kind of all unraveled from there, as it does every once in a while. So I was thinking, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just grouchy. And I was just grouchy. And Jeffrey was out for a long bike ride, and he had a great time on his bike ride, but I was just, I was so upset. And so I was like, what am I going to do? Like, I can't be like this. Or I can't hold on to this feeling. I can be like this. We can hold space for that, but I don't want to hold on to this feeling. And so I ended up like coming down here into my knitting room, and I was already, I was upset with the Tolsta. That was the day that I finished the Tolsta. I was upset with the Tolsta. I wasn't happy. I wanted to cast something on, but I didn't know what I was going to cast on next. I had thought it through, but I wasn't totally sold on it. I was going to start my salty air my salty air tea, which we're going to get to that in a minute, but I didn't have the right needles because my needles were on my Harlow hat. Like, it was a whole situation. And it just, yeah. Do you ever have those days where just nothing is okay? But I knew I needed to find a way to kind of release that or channel that negative energy that was not me or Jeffrey or my relationship with Jeffrey or my thoughts about myself or anything like that. And so I came down here and there are two sweaters that I have almost never worn. And one I've had hanging around a lot longer than the other one. The one that I did not rip out yet, I've had for 2 years. And I'm just waiting until I actually have a project that I want to do with that yarn. And we're getting close. We're getting very close. But this other sweater I finished last year, and I had knitted up as a Cozy Classic Raglan by Jessie Maid, and the pattern was wonderful, and it calls for a strand of fingering and a strand of mohair. And I think had I made it with a strand of fingering and a strand of mohair, it would have been beautiful. But I didn't. I made it with the Hedgehog Fibres Tweedy. And this yarn is beautiful, and it's got a ton of recycled content, and it's wonderful, squishy, it blooms in an insane way, but it's a little itchy. And the no frills is a little close to the body. Or not, it's not the no frills, the Cozy Classics Raglan. It's a little close to the body. And so I never wore it because it was cropped and it was hot and it was itchy and it needed to change. And so to make myself feel better on Monday night, I went ahead and I ripped it out. And so over the last few days, I have ripped out the sweater. And I love doing this. If you ever need a sweater frogged and you can't like bring yourself to it, just message me on Instagram and I will give you my address and I will frog it for you and send you back the yarn. Because look at this. Look at this yarn that is ready to be used. So what I did, because the sweater had felted a little bit in the underarms, it had like in the armpits, I don't think I had washed it in a little while, so it needed a good wash. So what I ended up doing, excuse me while I skein this up. So what I ended up doing was, there we go. Isn't that so beautiful? Like, look, if you need more yarn, just unravel the sweaters that you don't wear. That's a very privileged statement, Megan. Anywho, I frogged it. I skeined up the yarn. I ended up with 5 skeins. It's probably about 400 grams total. We'll see once everything shakes out. I made sure that none of my skeins were too large. And I did, as you had seen, a few figure 8 ties. I soaked it in a bath and I ran the water real hot because I really wanted to make sure that this got a good kind of washing of any of my body oils from the sweater. Like I said, it was super felted in the underarms, so I wanted to make sure it got a good wash. So I soaked it with soak wash and hot water. I let it sit for, I think it was maybe it was 24 hours. No, I got it at it was almost 24 hours because I didn't actually get to it until the next morning. Squeezed all of the water out, rolled it up in towels as you do with a blocked, like when you're blocking a sweater, when you're washing a sweater. Rolled it up in towels, stepped on it, let it lay in my, and this is all with the yarn once I've already pulled it out. Laid it over a garment rack that we use to dry our clothes. And then yesterday afternoon, I ended up just putting it in the sun for a little while. It wasn't in direct sunlight, but in the heat outside, which was gonna dry it a little bit faster. And then I actually also ended up giving it a little steam because even after it had been in the bath, it was still quite crimpy. And so I gave it a little bit of a steam and that helped release a bit more of the crimp. And at this point, like you can see on some of the looser parts, yeah, it's a little crimpy, but it's gonna be what it's gonna be. So I'm not too worried about it, but what I did spend a lot of this week doing was scouring for some new patterns that I can make using this yarn, because I really love this yarn and I really want to use it. So I didn't want it to be anything too tight, especially up here or like even here. So I didn't want it to be too tight. and I didn't want the sleeves to be tight, and I didn't want it to be a raglan because I didn't want it to cut in right here. Now, there are some people that'll make super deep raglans, so it doesn't, like Taylor E. Owens is one, so she makes her raglans super deep, but then like I don't like the bulk that creates. I don't like the line that creates on my body. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna make it something that's drop shoulder, because then it's not going anywhere near my armpits. It's gonna be something that's a little boxier. So I was like, okay, maybe something along the lines of a weekender, but I have another weekender on the docket, in the queue. And so I didn't want to do that. So I went on a big Ravelry hunt, and I did this over a few days, and I ended up coming across the Smookie by, oh no, Kate Davies Designs. So the Smookie by Kate Davies Designs, and I will put a picture in. Oh my gosh, the texture, it's not cables, it's just all twisted stitches. And I actually bought the entire pattern collection because it's all different patterns using just twisted stitches. And all of them she shows on like just this light gray base. Oh, it is stunning. So it's a pullover, so it's not a cardigan. I was kind of thinking maybe a cardigan, but that's okay. So it's a pullover, super drop shoulder, and it only comes in 3 sizes, but I think the largest size goes to a 70 inch, and the recommended ease is anywhere from 12 inches to 20 inches. So 12 inches of ease, that would take you down to a 58 inch bust. So it's not the most size inclusive, but 2, it depends on what kind of fit you want for yourself. But I think that after the next sweater that I have on the docket that I'm just starting now, I think I might be casting this on. And it's funny because last episode I joked around like, oh, maybe I'll end up with a super bulky sweater, like winter woolly sweater on my needles. I think that's what's gonna happen. So, I'm living in AC right now, so it'll be good. It'll be fine. We don't keep our house too cold. It's like 24, but it's still AC. It's not 30 or 27, which my house with no AC, it would get to 27 on hot days with no AC. So anyways, I'm very, very excited about this pattern. I'm very excited about this knit. I'm very excited about the finished object. And it feels good to kind of have that sort of bubbly excitement. I think it's been a few weeks since I've kind of felt that, especially since I've been on leave, since I've been away, since I've really been trying to do that hard grief work from my loss of my mom. I'm really excited, and it feels good to kind of have that spark back. So we will see what happens. Keep you posted for next week, maybe the week after. TBD. So that was a fun little story, and let's rock into some whips. So last week I had 2 finished objects. This week I had 2 finished objects. That was just a week ago. Well, it was 6 days ago because I recorded last one on last Friday, and today's Thursday, June 8th. And so I had just started this. Let's just get into it. So my whips are like barely there whips. So this is my Salty Air tee. I cast it on a few days ago, but I wanted to finish my hat first. And so I finished my hat because I needed the 3.5 millimeter needle that I was using for my hat. I needed to use that for my, for the body. So I finished the collar, and then I kind of just sat there for a few days. And so just today I finished the short rows, and I have my stitch markers in, and I'm excited to get onto it. I didn't gauge swatch because this is the same gauge that the coloring book raglan called for, and I'm using the exact same base of yarn. So the yarn that I am using is from Crux Fibres. And this is a base. She still has a few colors in her store, actually, and she might bring it back. I don't know what Brittany's planning, but this is Crux Fibres, and the base is alpaca, linen, and silk. So it's 51% baby alpaca, 25% linen, and 24% Tessa silk. So you can definitely see the linen-y flex. You can definitely see kind of a little bit of the nubbiness from the silk, but it's not elastic, like there is no stretch, but it's not challenging to work with either. It feels very, very comfortable to work with. And you can see here, just the fabric that it creates is beautiful. So this is on a 3.5 millimeter, and yeah, I'm very excited. I'll check my gauge when I'm partway through the yoke as well, but yeah. You of course can see light coming through there, but it doesn't actually, like when you're actually wearing it, it's not like it's see-through at all. Even though, well, there's lace in the yoke, so that'll be see-through because it's lace, but just the stockinette fabric isn't see-through, and I'm really excited about this one. I did do the alternating cable cast on that she calls for in the pattern, and I'm really liking the neckline. This is a tee that I don't think is gonna pull down too far because it's just a crop, short sleeves. It's just gonna go to my waist. It's just gonna be to wear over like dresses and skirts and things like that. But, so I'm not too worried about it pulling out, but I'm interested to see what the structure is because it creates a really similar edge to a tubular cast on. And like I said, the problems that I've had with the tubular cast on in the past have been that it does just stretch out and it kind of lacks some structural integrity. But you can see here, like this one feels pretty good. Could just be because the yarn has no elasticity. And when I say the yarn has no elasticity, the strand doesn't, the stockinette has beautiful movement. So don't sweat that too hard if you are thinking of using this yarn. Yeah. While I'm editing the podcast, I've got some increases to do, and then I get into the lace, and I'm thrilled. So it's gonna feel really good to get into that and to have a finished project. I don't think it's gonna take me very long. Maybe longer than a week. It's fingering weight. We'll see where I'm at next week. If I'm into if I've got some lace done next week, I'll be totally jazzed. And then the only other real whip that I have right now is socks that I showed maybe in my first episode, maybe my second. So I did this sock. And it was totally my first episode because I remember having lots of comments about this panel. If you are interested, this is like a little arch support panel, and it provides some structure in the middle of the sock that I really, really enjoy. I've got very high arches. If you like that arch support panel and want to learn more, I learned this technique from Summerly Knits. She has a lot of really wonderful sock patterns, and she also has like bundles with like 3 or 4 different sock patterns, and I love them. I would recommend purchasing one or many. And she includes this stitch in there and kind of the instructions of where to place it. So I would strongly recommend that. But I had showed you this finished sock, and so this week I didn't get much more done. But this week I got the heel gusset, or the heel flap done, and I got my gusset stitches picked up. And so I'm just working on my gusset decreases. But socks, I kind of go on and off and on and off. And so I think I'll probably finish this week. And then I have some exciting new sock plans kind of for like mine and Jeffrey's camping season. I think it'll be fun. We'll see. That's for another day. This yarn is from H&R Arts, and this is in the colorway Antique. If you're looking for a really good sock yarn, I love their Sock NATO base. It's a little bit thicker and fuller than a normal sock yarn. So it's got a little bit more heft to it. it's really, really scrumptious. It washes great, and I find it keeps its structure. I like my socks to be a little bit thicker, so sometimes I find some sock yarns are just kind of, they feel too thin. This feels really nice and thick and substantial. So I knit these on a 2.25 millimeter, size 1. I knit my socks on magic loop. I do a heel flap and gusset. For the longest time, I hated heel flap and gusset until I like just kind of figured it out. And now I don't need to think about it too much. I always have to look at a pattern for the heel turn, but that's about it. So those are these socks, and hopefully they're a finished object next week. I have one more thing in my whips category, but it's not actually a whip yet, but it will be. So my whip to be, and I won't tell you too much about this week, but my whip to be is an Inclinations Cowl by Andrea Mowry, and I have the most electric yarns for it. So these are by one of my favorite dyers, Lily and Pine, and this is my favorite base ever from her, the Elm Sport 100% BFL. And this base is actually really interesting. She calls it her Rambouillet Sport. And this is a yarn that she had milled for her at the Rosebud Fiber Mill in Rosebud, Alberta. And so they've milled it for her, and so it's 100% Rambouillet. And then she went ahead and dyed it. And I love how she's still got her really electric poppy color onto a non-superwash base. And it's just, it is totally 100% next to skin soft. Originally when I bought this, I thought I would do like something with cables, something with it on its own. But this I bought at the same event, and I bought like 4 skeins of this, 2 in this base and then 2 in her Cashmere merino nylon base, MCN base. I'm gonna be buying more on the 100% BFL base because it's just, I got a thing with this color. So I'm really excited. I'm just gonna do it in stripes. I will probably be cutting it close for yardage. I'm happy to break into my second skein of this. I have a total of 330 yards of this. So we'll see. I'm making it on a slightly larger needle. So I might cut like my increases a little bit short. We'll see. I'm gonna fly by the seat of my pants. If at the back, like there's 1 inch of fabric hanging off, I really don't care. I'm not gonna be bothered by it. It's gonna be a fun project. It's gonna be very bright and summery for an accessory that I will not wear ever in the summer, but I'm really excited to work on this, and that feels very good, as I prior talked to you about. So those are kind of whips and plans and finished objects and life and all of the above. And this has been my Hey Mom podcast. If you want to see mine and Jeffrey's adventures in Waterton, please stay and watch that. And if you don't, I hope you have a lovely week, and I hope you take care of the people that you love, and I hope you take care of yourself and are kind to yourself, and reach out to those that you love, no matter where they are. And I'll see you next week. Okay, bye.